It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, brought to you by Fast Break Sports, the largest selection of cards and card supplies in Southwest Missouri. Now here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, thank you for tuning in and giving me your time to talk a little sports here this week. Special guest with us today is Chuck Hepola, the coach of the Evangel Valor, as his team off to a 3-0 start again this season after an undefeated regular season last year, and happy to have Chuck back and talk some Evangel football. Chuck, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate you having me. I always look forward to talking to you.
We could talk OU stuff, and we will talk some football, just general football here in a little bit, but, want to talk about the Valor, again, off to a great start. 3-0 at home this week, home being Nixa High School Stadium to play St. Mary this Saturday night. Kind of give me your assessment through 3 games of your Evangel team.
Yeah, we're fortunate to be 3-0, and I'm thankful for that, but we've got still a lot of work to do. I think 2 things. One, we've got to learn to finish better, and because we've had a lot of opportunities in the red zone where we've been kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns, and then we've got to make sure that we eliminate the turnovers and get a few more takeaways. I think right now it's kind of a wash. I think we're even with our turnovers and takeaways. And actually, if you look at any level of football from NFL all the way down, the number one stat that determines, the success of a football program on a Saturday or Sunday or Friday night would be turnovers. And so we've got to eliminate that, and that's just a fundamental thing that we've got to do. As a coaching staff, we've got to coach better. The players got to play better in regards to that. And I think if we do that, then I think we can have a really successful season.
Averaging about 35 points a game, allowing 18 per game. So nothing really changed there compared to last year. Number 16 in the national poll. And I guess the first thing that pops into my head is, your members now, the KCAC, the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference. That league is still kind of fighting to get respect, is it not, in the national ranks in terms of NAIA?
Yeah, I would agree. It's, just from being in the Heart for a number of years and now being the KCAC for 2 years, it's a very, very comparable conference. I mean, the teams from top to bottom are really good in the KCAC, and they are in the Heart as well. I think the biggest difference is a perennial team like Grandview that's always been in anywhere from the 2 to 3 to 4 in the top 5. That's probably what we're missing at the KCAC, and hopefully we can reach a point to where we're similar to that. So, I mean, we were the only ones that have beaten Grandview in the regular season in the last number of years. So that speaks volumes for that conference and that top tier team. And then obviously the Heart's got very good football. I mean, when we were in the South Division there in the Heart, that was the best division in the Heart, and now currently we're in the Kessinger Division, which arguably could be, argued the same way. It's a very difficult side because majority of the top 25 teams are receiving votes are coming from our division.
Yeah, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, and 2-1. The top 5 out of the 6 in your division. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 0-3, 0-3, 0-3 in the other division. Can we petition for a division switch at any point this year? Or
honestly, they do. The one thing I will say about the KCAC is they've already. So next year there'll still be a Bissell division and a Kessinger division, but it'll look different. Every 2 years they're going to reshuffle the divisions so that they can try to get both sides a little bit more competitive on that end when you start talking about national rankings and so forth. And so I've already seen the schedule next year, so there's a little bit of adjustment on that next year. So they have actually that was before we even joined the conference. They had talked about that doing. I think the Heart probably should have done that as well, if you want to know the truth.
That is nice, a little flexibility and kind of for competitive balance too there, which is nice. So
yep, that's what they're trying to generate, and I think it's very intelligent. Whoever came up with that really. That's a pretty good way of looking at it.
What was the, in terms of balance, what did you have coming back from last year to this year? Did you return X number of players on offense and defense? And that kind of ties in with what was the expectation coming in?
Yeah, we returned really on average on offense and defense. We returned about 12 guys that either started or played significantly for us on offense and defense. We returned our long snapper, short snapper, our punter, and our kicker. So on special teams, we returned those core guys right there. So, we felt like we were going to be, a solid football team. The biggest issue was we were replacing a quarterback that had, I think he was 18-4 in the last 2 years as a starter, and so we're replacing him. And at any level, you got to have good quarterback play or great quarterback play to be able to be successful. Reed Potts, which is a young man from Nixa, stepped in and played very well for us this season. But, he's only played 3 regular season games. He actually played 2 in the previous year, so he was here the previous year. And so really up to date, he's only played in 5 regular season games for us. So he's still got some youth in him. And but from offense, we returned 4 of the 5 starters. Running backs, we returned 4 of our top 5 running backs, and then tight ends, we returned 2 that played the tight end position, 2 of the top 3 that we had last year, and then receiver, we obviously a big loss with Dylan Hester, an All-American, but we returned quite a few receivers that did. On the defensive line, it was our edge guys that returned. Our interior defensive line, right now they're playing significantly. Our 2 freshmen that came in, we returned Zach Myers, an All-American. Of course, on the offensive line, we returned C.J. Anawahi, that was an All-American as well. And then Bradley Myers, a linebacker that led the country in tackles last year, returned for his last year this year. And then we also had two linebackers / nickels that played and started for us that ended up getting hurt during the season. And then 3 of our 4 back in the secondary returns. So, you really look at our team, there's quite a few guys returning. We just had to plug in some holes a little bit, but also that quarterback position was a big position that we had to fill.
Yeah, and speaking of Reed Potts, not only, inexperience at the college level, but some rust to shake off, too, because it's been a while since he's been out there taking regular snaps. I know, didn't he go to SEMO to start and then Missouri State, and then has been with
correct.
you said, for 2 years there. So, I mean,
this is the second year. Mm-hmm.
Do you see signs of that happening week by week, that he's just getting more comfortable?
Oh, yeah. Reed is very cerebral, and he's got a really good skill set, and what happens over time is the more you get out there on the field, the game slows down for you. And so we use this phrase a lot in our program, just to think clear in the chaos. And if you can, because football, especially the sport of football, is about processing information. You got to process information in anywhere from 4 to 12 seconds, and then the next play comes and you got to reprocess new information again. And so it's about players processing information and thinking clear in the chaos, and that's what enables a guy to develop over time.
Looking at your stats, still just tremendous balance between the run and pass. First down wise, I think it's 36 rush, 32 pass, but you're averaging almost 203 yards per game on the ground. Is that kind of along the lines of what you want to do? Basically, is establish that ground game because you can run clock and kind of bury some opponents that way too.
Yep. If you look at the end of the year, you look at the teams in the NFL that are in the playoffs and have a chance to make it to the Super Bowl or collegiately as well. They might appear to be throwing the ball a lot, but honestly, they have to be able to run the football. And running the football brings a lot of benefits to your team. If nothing else, it creates a mindset, like a physical mindset. And then also, just like you said, you can manage the clock a lot better because, obviously after the next play, you ran the football, and if you stay in bounds or certain situations, the clock's going to continue to run. And especially when you're playing somebody that might have a little bit more talent than you want to be able to eliminate the opportunities they have to have the football. But, yeah, that's a big part of what we do. I've got 4 running backs that have played every game, and they're all really good size, frame, physical running backs that somebody's going to have to bring down. And so it's been fun watching them guys get out there and produce.
Yeah, Reed's favorite target, Brock Lyle, 18 catches so far. That's a Rolla kid. Of course, Reed Potts from Nixa. Running back Eric Williams, 300 yards on the ground, averaging 6.2 per carry. That's just poor coaching. Got to get him the ball more, Chuck.
100%.
But is local still a big base for you in terms of recruiting?
Oh yeah. And as you were reading off those players, Cam Harris has played a lot for us at the running back position, and he's actually from Parkview, and we could go to C.J. Anawahi, which is an All-American left guard for us. He's a Kickapoo kid, and the back end on the safeties, you got Nate Swafford, which is from Ava. Bradley Myers and Zach Myers are from the Kansas City area, which, you could arguably say that's local as well. But, that's always what we're going to do. We're going to start local, and then we're going to work our way out. And we found out that there's a lot of good football players around here that are well coached and have really high character and just want to get out and play some good, solid football.
But you still got to dip down into the Texas and Oklahomas and things like that because there's just so many kids, right?
That's true. And like I said, what we do is we try to find it here first. Mm-hmm. And then if we don't, then we plug and play with, athletes from out of the area. But also, a lot of the areas we've recruited them for such a long time now. If I can use the phrase, we have a good name, in those areas. And so they know we're going to take care of these kids. They know they're going to come in and get a really good degree at Evangel. It's a really great city here in Springfield, Missouri. And then also we're going to play good football, and always going to play in a good conference, and always going to have a chance to win. And so that enables us in the recruiting side of it. Our administration has been really great to us. We've got a brand new building. I'm actually sitting in a brand new office here that I moved in the summertime in August, and so we've got new offices, new training room, new equipment room, new locker room, and it's north of our turf field that'll eventually be an on-campus stadium. And so really the commitment is there here at Evangel for athletics, but also obviously of being a student athlete. And so it's a great place to be. So recruiting, that's a big part of our recruiting process.
You jumped ahead on one of my questions there about the facilities update, Chuck. Is that the Valor Center? Are you in the Valor Center with your offices? Yeah,
it's technically the AG Financial Arena is what it's called. And
okay.
So that's been named. And so yes, so on the south end of the building is our offices. Our offices on the second floor. And so the way we designed it is our offices are an office/meeting room. So if you're the receivers coach, then that's the receivers coach's office, but it's also his meeting room. So that's where the receivers meet, and it's a very large office. And then we've got a balcony that overlooks the turf field here that our soccer teams are currently playing games at. And then below us on the first floor, right below us is our new locker room, our new training room, our new equipment room, our new weight room. And then on north of the building is the court sports, which are basically our men's and women's basketball and volleyball. And then, of course, they've got the arena. Of course, also on our south end right here, we've got track that has an office here, and men's and women's soccer have an office here as well as the administration. So it's a very well-designed building, really well-thought-out building, and it's something that we've been waiting for here at Evangel, and we're very thankful for the people that gave money towards it and wants to see Evangel advance as a university, but also the athletic side of the university.
So many exciting things happening over there, and with I'm sure enrollment growth, the facilities, things like that. When you bring kids now in for a recruiting visit and they see that, have you seen some eyes kind of light up with what's coming and what's here now?
Yeah, they were able to see the building just kind of in a skeleton, phase last year when it was being built, and so. This year when we start bringing in, because we usually bring in on official visits in December and January here, but we still have had some people come around. But yeah, they look at the building and at the end of the day, it's a great building, and what it's done is it's made us more efficient. And but honestly, I'm just going to be frank with you on this. The number one thing to me in recruiting is the people. The greatest resource we have here at Evangel is the people, and I think the facilities are nice, and they certainly help you, but it's the people that keep you here. Maybe a facility might get you here. You might look at it and say, yeah, that's what I want. And it has made us efficient, and it's very well-deserved for our student-athletes. But at the end of the day, it's people, and we've got great people. And I know you're from around this area or spent a lot of time from around this area, so you know what kind of people there are around here. And so
absolutely.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Thankful for that.
Well, and that's always been Evangel. Ever since I got up here in the early 80s and from Steve Jenkins and Dave Schrader and David Stair and everybody else from the get-go, there's an expectation of Evangel. Part of it, I'm sure, is the university's mission, and affiliation, but just good people and doing things the right way. And that continues on today, which is great to see. So if you had to tell me right now, what season is the first home football game played there in your backyard?
In a new stadium, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't have the answer for that, but man, it would be awesome if it was next year.
Yeah.
So I would certainly take it because we have the infrastructure for it, and so it's just a matter of people's willingness to want to be able to give and all those things, and I know there's a lot of people that really want that. That's something that ever since I've been the head coach, before this building even existed that I'm sitting in right now, that's been a conversation piece. Because if you think about it, Scott, I'm very thankful. This is my 9th year as the head coach, so I've finished 8 full seasons, and during those 8 full seasons, we've been in the top 10 in the nation in average and total attendance, and we are always playing. We played since I've been the head coach at Ozarks and Nixa, so we've been playing roughly 30 minutes away, and people are still traveling. Our students are still traveling to go watch us play. And can you imagine what that would be like if we were on campus? I mean, we've been fortunate to be able to have a lot of people come and watch us play. That would just be massive.
Well, your one home game you've had at Nixa so far, I think 3,200 was the crowd. So, I mean, they find a way to get there and be loud and be supportive. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it'd be crazy just to be able to walk out of the dorms and walk across the street to the home football games. I think that's going to be a neat moment for all of you. I had Bert Capel on, your basketball coach, on back in the winter, and one thing we talked about was his philosophy on redshirting. There aren't a lot of patient kids out there anymore. They want to go and play, and if they don't play, they get in the portal and they go somewhere. But Bert's done a good job of convincing kids to sit for a year and then be ready to go and have a 5th year of eligibility and maturity and everything like that. Is that one of your things in football, even more so with just the year to develop size-wise and understand the system and understand the college game?
Yeah, very much so. Anytime we recruit, I address that when they come on our campus with their parents there because I tell them we never talk about redshirting to any of our players first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we do that, I said the only time I'm going to guarantee you're probably going to redshirt is maybe if you're coming in with an injury, and let's say, for instance, in the summertime you hurt your knee and you had to have surgery. Obviously, you're going to redshirt. It's a no-brainer there. But we tell the players and their families that they are an injury, an incident, or a coach's decision away from playing. So I want the reason why I don't talk about redshirting is because I want the mindset to be that you are an injury, an incident, or a coach's decision away from playing. And if you're let's say, for instance, the starter gets hurt and you're his backup and you move into that role, the standard doesn't change. We don't walk in here as a staff and say, well, we can't do that because so-and-so's in there now. No, I'm sorry, but we still have the same standard. And so everybody that walks into our program and practices out on that field, they have a standard. They have a standard that they have to meet. And if they meet that standard, then they're going to play, and they're going to play a little bit more frequently. And so that's one of the things that we do. So we don't really talk about redshirting, but that's kind of how we handle that. And then really what happens is the chips just fall where they fall, because sometimes you see maybe a player is not physically ready to be able to do it. Maybe he's not mentally ready to do it. And really most of them, I've yet to have a conversation with somebody who's like, well, I really felt like I was ready. It starts to get into the point where it becomes very, very obvious.
Well, kids that come to Evangel, I know they have to embrace the mission and everything about the school, or else they're not going to be there very long. The ones who do probably don't mind staying 5 years. And I think back to what you said last year when we talked about your find a husband, find a wife percentage there from football is about 93%. They leave with a bride, and stuff or something like that. Yeah. But I think one of the cool things you guys do is that you have a special thing now that happens on your bye week. Talk about that.
Yeah, during our bye week, last year we baptized, there was a lot. I think it was, goodness gracious, I want to say 53 that we baptized, and that was staff and players. And so that's something that we're going to do every year because, obviously the most important thing, we use football to teach biblical principles. We teach football to teach just everyday principles, and a young man's spiritual life is way more important to me than can he block a 5 technique or can he tackle this running back. And really, football is a metaphor for life. There's always something good that happens and something bad that happens on every play. And you need to be able to have your spiritual life in check, because your daily life, something good and something bad's always going to happen to you, and you got to know how to handle it. And so during our bye week, we're always going to, if somebody wants to get baptized, we actually use the tubs that you would use during fall camp if somebody gets heated and they need to cool them off. That's what we use out on the field, and so that's a really cool thing for our team to be able to do, and for something to be a part of. So I'm thankful for that.
How emotional is that for you and your staff on the bye week to see that? I mean, more so than winning a game. Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, you can't. It's just, it's by far one of the greatest experiences I've had at any level of anything. If you want to know the truth, it's gut wrenching to know that people go through some tough things, but man, they can always rely on the Lord, and we just want to make sure that they know that this is a place that there's people that support them. And back on my numbers, we had 43. So I'm sorry, I want to make sure I had that right. But we had 43 players and staff that did, but that's going to happen every bye week. That's what we're going to do every year until awesome. I'm not the head coach here.
So last year, you go to the playoffs. You lose at Bethel, Tennessee, 40-13. What did you take away from that loss in terms of how to prepare for this season and what you needed to be better at?
Well, the first thing is the score didn't indicate, the game. Mm-hmm. It also showed that we are, I want to win a national championship. And it showed that we're really not that far off from being able to compete and play for a national championship. But that also means that there's still some more that we have in our tank that we need to do. We need to do a better job, in the summer lifting and our off-season lifting. Our spring ball needs to improve, our fall camp. It's just really everything in our program. As soon as the season's over, I always start reflecting and studying and looking on our entire program. I look at every bit of our program and see what we can do better to make ourselves better. And so that takes me a long time, and it takes me all the way up until July when we report back as a staff officially, and then I kind of present to the staff of what needs to change, in regards to things. And of course, if there's something that needs a little bit of research, I'll alert somebody ahead of time. But we look at things in a very detailed manner. I tell our team all the time that our God is a God of details. And if you don't believe me, if you look in the scripture, he says that the stars even have a name. And he references that you have the numbers of the hairs on your head numbered. And so if those are two things that God knows, you're way more important than the hairs on your head. You're way more important than the stars in the sky. And he has that named and numbered. And so details matter to God. And so if we want to be a great program, we would want to emulate the things that are important to God. And details matter. And so that's one of the things that's important for us to become a better football program.
The couple other things I want to touch on, just football in general. Of course, you and I share an affinity for OU. You being a native Oklahoman, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I grew up in Tulsa, and when I think of Oklahoma, I think about being a kid and back in the day when really football games weren't frequent on TV like they are now, and I can picture in my mind playing in the front yard football on Thanksgiving, and we having a radio into the window that's going out, and we're listening to Oklahoma play Nebraska, and those were my heroes. I mean, growing up, Thomas Lott, Elvis Peacock, David Overstreet, Billy Sims, Barry Switzer, Tony Casillas went to my high school. His brother Philip was one of my brother's best friends, and so just supporting, Oklahoma back in the day. Those are still heroes to me. Just because you become an older man doesn't mean that you're not awestruck when you hear about Thomas Lott. A few years ago, Thomas Lott's son played at running back at Tulsa, and when I was at Nichols, we played at Tulsa. And Thomas Lott's son played, and I was telling the guys, I was like, that guy's dad was my hero, and so, here we are playing him, and, and I'm reverting back to being a kid listen to Oklahoma games, on the radio. And so,
did you have a bandana you wore in his honor back when?
You know what? hey, I actually had, the little towel that J.C. Watts had, that he put, in the front, and they had Oklahoma. We made little towels and had our numbers on it, and so we were just trying to emulate what those guys were. And so yeah, those are great fond memories, and I still support the state of Oklahoma. To be honest with you, I actually support Oklahoma State, and Tulsa. I grew up in the state, so I want all those schools to do well. But yeah, Oklahoma is one I kind of lean towards a little bit more.
And it's going to be a tough one this week as Tennessee comes to town. I think they're criminally underrated. I think they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. Just look at the talent they have. But for you, it's tough because you and Josh Heupel, the Tennessee coach, and his family have a relationship as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. I've known Josh for a long time. I've worked some summer football camps for them called Day of Champions since 2003. And that's after I left Tulsa and I went to East Central University, lived in Ada. So the very first camp I did with them was on East Central University's campus in Ada, and the second camp I did was in Shawnee, Oklahoma, the very next weekend. And so I've had a friendship with them since 2003, and his father, Ken, in particular, is really has become really a great friend. And I saw Josh fairly recently in the spring because his mom had passed away, so I was at the funeral, and so I was able to see them and the family. And in fact, I talked to Ken last week, and so I talked to him quite frequently and just check on him, see how he's doing, and especially now that Josh's mom passed away. And so yeah, great family friends. And actually when Josh's mom was things were becoming difficult for him, family had called and let me know and let some of us know that are tight with the family. And so, yeah, I have nothing but respect for the family. I love that family, and I love Josh Heupel, and I'm always going to support him. But, yeah, I'm conflicted because I'm an OU fan, but I'm also a Josh Heupel and a Heupel family fan.
We're 2 or 3 years into it now, and you as a football coach, and maybe you benefit some from it, but your view of the game now in terms of the transfer portal and NIL, and is that has NIL filtered down to the NIL level? Does anybody ever ask that comes over there? Kind of your state of the union on those two things.
Yeah, first of all, we have the greatest game known to man, but it is a very bad business. And I'm just being honest, because I don't think the NIL and all those things. Yes, do I think some of those guys deserve finances and so forth? I mean, that's a hard debate, but what it's done is, in my opinion, it creates a little bit of destruction within college football, and because it's not just college football. I mean, I can remember the days when I was a kid and I could tell you the starting lineup from the New York Yankees, and then I could tell you the starting lineup from the St. Louis Cardinals, and then the next year it'd be the starting lineup again, and then free agency at the next level started. People started moving around, and then it becomes more and more difficult to cheer for those teams because you end up starting to cheer for people, and then it's just interesting. But yeah, when it comes to NIL, here's how it affects us. The transfer portal, we actually have more high school athletes available to us. More high school athletes available to us because of the transfer portal. What's happening is the higher schools are going and getting kids from other colleges, and so the high school kids, it's actually kind of an unfortunate thing. But but for me, like I said, I'm glad that people do get paid. Honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, somebody getting paid. I mean, again, we could sit there and debate about that for days. But at the end of the day, it's about people. The greatest resource here at Evangel is not this building that I'm sitting in. It's not that we could pay somebody this or pay somebody that. It's the people that you're being around, and that's what that's created is people are starting to chase that kind of stuff instead of relationships and being around people and having somebody can teach you how when something gets tough, you don't take your lunch pail and go home. And unfortunately, when I was raised that when it's tough, you just buck up, and you just fight through it. And sometimes it's a little easier for guys to. If something doesn't go their way. So, you kind of caught me on that one a little bit because it fires me up a little bit because I can see the positives, but I can also see how it's destructive at times too.
When you watch the NFL now, this kickoff, the dynamic kickoff, your thoughts on that? I see a lot of touchbacks, not a lot of action.
Yeah.
Do you see that? What are your thoughts on it? And do you see it filtering to the college game at some point?
I think it'll eventually filter the college game, but what I really think they need to do is where they spot the ball if you kick a touchback. They need to probably, instead of on the 30, put it on the 35, and because the idea is they shorten that to safe and to make the game a little bit more safe.
Mm-hmm.
But then as a result of that, they you're still having a lot of touchbacks and so forth. So it's just interesting. I don't have a major opinion on it yet because it's only been a few games, so I'm just curious how it's going to work out. But I know why they did it, because they're just trying to create a safer game, which I have no problem with.
Well, the only injury you're going to have are guys cramping up, just standing still there for 10 seconds while the ball's in the air.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. But, the Valor are back home this Saturday. St. Mary comes in. It's a 6:05 start at Nixa Eagles Stadium. Hall of Fame day. Who's going in? What's the class look like?
Yeah, so Hall of Fame, so really cool. You've got, I'll just mention one that's not part of our sport, but, Mary Whitehead, who is, our volleyball coach here, just won ton of games. And so she's still currently our volleyball coach, but yet she is going in, in the Hall of Fame. And I think that's really cool, for her to be able to do that. And she is just a classy lady, and just thankful to be able to see that she is going in the Hall of Fame. But from the football side of it, Eric Black was a quarterback here, at Evangel, mm-hmm. And then transferred here from Florida State and just had a really good career. And so he'll be on the football side of it. And the 1984 football team, will be earn a legacy award. That will be, and that's kind of highlighted by Tony Dollinger. I don't know if you remember that name or recognize that name.
Touchdown Tony.
Yep. So Touchdown Tony and that group right there. And so some of those guys that are actually on that particular team, were also part of the originals, because a lot of people probably don't realize, but Evangel as a university is not very old. 1955 is when it started. And then the football program is not very old. In 1977 is where Evangel football started playing football. So if you really think about that, our team, my current team, is team number 48. So we're the 48th team to play football at Evangel. And so there's been a lot of good football teams and coaches that have come in and out of here, but we're not very old. And so it's pretty cool to see the people go into the Hall of Fame. And then there's a softball, View Stacy, that's going in as well. I don't have it in front of me, but played softball as well, so that she is going in as well. So,
great.
So it's a great class.
Do you know any of the 84 coaches able to make it back? And my first year at the paper was 85, so I covered that team with Dave Schrader and Tony Dollinger and that group. Had some characters on that coaching staff. Are any of them able to make it, or? I believe there'll be a couple. I think Lou Fees might be coming by. I don't know if you know Lou. But Lou Fees was on that as well. There are. I'm not 100% sure who's coming, but they did say that there's some good amount of team players, players on the team, and some coaches that are coming. So. Will be a big night at Nixa High School. It's got to be pretty cool for Reed Potts to go play on the place he played high school football.
Oh, yeah, really cool for him. And Nixa has been nothing but gracious for us, and it's been a really good partnership and a great place to play, and what a great stadium. And they got the addition with what they can do with the lights, what they do with Springfield Cardinals games and what a lot of people are doing. And it's just really cool. It's a really cool atmosphere, and it's really, really cool.
I think you should come out in gray pants, gray jerseys, and gray helmets and see if the opponent can find you. Have you thought of that yet or not?
Occasionally we have wore our gray out there. There's no doubt we've done that. So it's been I hadn't really thought about it that way, but we'll I guess I'll rethink that next time.
There you go, Chuck. Appreciate your time as always. We'll catch up with you later in the year, and thanks again, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do.
You betcha. That's going to do it for another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. Our thanks to Chuck Hepola and the Evangel Valor Football, talking a little Valor action as they're back home this week to play Knicks on Saturday night. If you don't have anything going on, get down and watch some exciting winning football with the Valor at Eagle Stadium. Special thanks to Fast Break Sports. They're located at 3109 South Campbell. They are our chief sponsor. Chiefs as a pun there because you can find everything Chiefs related for that man cave, for your yard. They've got the memorabilia out there. They've got baseball and football cards and collectibles, a little bit of everything in Fast Break Sports, and we appreciate their sponsorship. We'll see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.